Great. We'll call the meeting to order at 5:59, close enough to 6 o'clock. Please join and please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy,
Yes.
Councilmember Dan Hahn,
Present.
Councilmember Cox,
Present.
Councilmember Stubble,
Present.
Councilmember Josh Hahn,
Yes.
Mayor White.
Present.
You have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone joining us tonight. Appreciate having you with us. If you've got cell phones with you, please make sure you have them on silent mode. And if you need to have a conversation, even a whispered one, please excuse yourself and step out away from the door so the sound doesn't travel in. But thank you for being here. We appreciate that. Next up is approval of the agenda. We have some amendments we need to make for that, and Councilmember Stubble is going to bring those forward.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that we approve the agenda, and after we get that second, I'll make those amendments.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Second. So motion by Councilmember Stubble, seconded by Councilmember Cox. And we have some amendments.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think in order to respect a lot of folks' time, thanks for coming here. We've got some thematic issues I think we can clump together so that we can have folks returning to their families and their free time if they like. So here's what I propose, that we take 12, unfinished business. This is the third and final reading of Title II of the ordinance change. I propose that we move that to come just after 10 new business action items. So we would do 10 new business non-action, and then we would do unfinished business action items. That's the first one, Mayor. Shall I keep going?
Okay. Please.
Okay. Lastly, then I think let's bring up some of our new business action items that are related to Title II as well. So take new business K and L. This is liquid courage, liquor license transfer, and Sweetwater Investments liquor license, and bring them to the top of new business. So those are the first new business action items. So we would do overtime policy, Title II, and then the 2 liquor license changes.
Great. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yep.
That's K and L of section 11. So the very bottom of the second page of the agenda. Okay, so we've got a motion to amend. Could we get a second? Amendment moved by Councilmember Stubble, seconded by Councilmember Larson. Any discussion on that?
Mayor, can we see by a show of hands how many are here for Title II and then K and L?
Sure.
So approve the other two. If I just see by a show of hands.
Yeah, folks in the audience, give us a show of hands.
Okay, so the vast
Yep.
majority. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, call for the question. Councilmember Larson.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
The amendment's approved, and now to approve the agenda as amended. We'll start with you, Councilmember Hahn.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes.
And that passes. And I will do my best to remember that in our flow. I'm sure y'all will keep me on track for that. Okay, next up is the public hearing, ordinance 2026-1, fixing and determining the mill levy necessary to be levied to raise sufficient money by general tax to meet the current expenses of the city of Lander for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2026. So this is our standard thing that happens every year. This is not a new tax. I want to make sure folks are clear on that. And Rochelle, will turn it over to you, please.
Ordinance 2026-1, an ordinance fixing and determining the mill levy necessary to be levied to raise sufficient money by general tax to meet the current expenses of the city of Lander for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2026. Section 1, a mill levy of 8 mills, no more, no less, is hereby fixed, determined, and declared necessary to raise sufficient money by general tax upon the property within the city of Lander, Fremont County, Wyoming, to meet the current expense of the city of Lander for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2026. This ordinance shall take effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication is required by law and the ordinance of the city of Lander. Public hearing date, March 10th, 2026. Passed on first reading, proposed March 10th, 2026. passed on second reading, proposed April 14th, 2026, passed on third reading, May 12th, 2026, passed, adopted, and approved by the mayor and the city council.
Okay, so I guess officially I should open the public hearing at 6:04 for that. Got a little ahead of ourselves having it introduced and read first. Would welcome anyone coming for public comment for that. Please come to the microphone. Okay, seeing no one come, then we will close the hearing at 6:05. Next up then is the public hearing, Ease Liquid Courage LLC DBA Liquid Courage Bar and Grill, 592 Main Street, Suite 1, and adjacent covered patio, Lander, Wyoming. Application to transfer of ownership of retail liquor license number 2, currently held by Liquid Courage LLC DBA Liquid Courage Bar and Grill, 592 Main Street, Suite 1, and adjacent covered patio, Lander, Wyoming. Now we'll do it in the proper order. So we'll call the hearing open at, I've got 6:05. You could introduce and read, please, Rochelle.
So there isn't ordinance or resolution to read, but it was published. Notice of the transfer application in the Lander Journal on February 21st and 28th. So more than 14 consecutive days before today's hearing. The transfer application is in your packet. We did receive email confirmation from the state that everything required for that application has been cleared on their end. In essence, Esperanza Rivera is purchasing the liquor license. She's the one who has been running and managing. My understanding is no changes in operation or location.
Great. And Ms. Rivera, are you here in the audience? Oh, okay, great. We'll let her join us here. She can make a dramatic, I know, dramatic entrance coming. Darn it. Hi, perfect timing, Ms. Rivera. If you wouldn't mind coming up, we just opened up the public hearing for the transfer of your liquor license. And question I had for you, since in accordance with the state statute, can you just fill us on high level about how the operations will happen? Because that's one of the requirements of the liquor license. For the liquor license, how it will be used in operation.
So I currently am purchasing Liquid Courage Bar and Grill from Bo Wendley. And so it'll be ran just like the restaurant is run now. We'll do the drinks that we serve during bar hours from 12 noon until 2:00 a.m. Monday through Saturday. And then during football season, we do open on Sunday.
Okay.
And then we do packaged liquor, but not very often.
Okay.
And right now, just the facilities don't allow us to do any, we don't have very much room to do very much package or any drive-through.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other public comment about this? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll close that hearing at 6:07. I'll move on to our next one. Item 5, public hearing, Sweetwater Investment Properties LLC, DBA Wind River Outdoor Company, 8114 Highway 789, Lander, Wyoming. Application to transfer ownership and location of retail liquor license number 15, currently held by American Pizza Partners LP, DBA Pizza Hut at 670 East Main Street, Lander, Wyoming. So we'll open that hearing at 6:08. And Rochelle, back to you.
Likewise, the transfer application is in your packet. It was also advertised in the newspaper on those same dates of February 21st and 28th, the newspaper being the Lander Journal. I've received no comments. The Liquor Division has also cleared this one on their review, and I see that Mr. Hanson is here.
Great. And likewise, Mr. Hanson, if you could come up and fill us in on what the big picture operational plan for the liquor license.
Sure.
We'd appreciate that.
First of all, good evening. For the record, my name is Ron Hansen. I'm owner of Wind River Outdoor Company, and we entered into an agreement a couple months ago for the purchase of the license from American Pizza Partners. And the purpose of that is we want to put in a bourbon vault in the store and then allow for, we do a lot of vendor events over the course of the year. and prevents that uncomfortable transition from we're operating at the one stop and people are walking across the property to do catering permit events, coming back to, so it's just, it makes it easier keeping track of and keeping your hands around the operation. So we entered into that. We have not started construction yet because we were obviously waiting for approval to do so through the city and the state. But be happy to answer any questions if you have any this time.
Any questions for Mr. Hanson? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that at 6:09. And now moving on to item 6, communication from the floor. Please approach the microphone, state your name, full name for the record. This meeting and comments are electronically recorded, and all comments will be limited to 3 minutes. If anyone would like to come for public comment, please step forward at this time.
Mayor, Council, my name is Brett Johnson. I'm the president of the Fremont County Law Enforcement Foundation. We're here to announce our event this month, give you guys some flyers. Talked to the chief already. He's coming, I believe, right? He says he's buying tickets, so he doesn't have to buy his, but he's got to buy his spouse's. But Carol's got some handouts for you guys. I've also got some pamphlets showing what we've money that we've granted to agencies. I don't know if you all know the foundation only grants money for Fremont County law enforcement agencies. That's it. We got a whole bunch of new stuff for our live and silent auction this year. They're cooking a full pig this year with, it's like a turducken. It's got chicken and brisket in it when they cook it. So it sounds absolutely delicious. It does. I don't know what they're calling that yet. I'm not sure if they've made up a name.
That's why the chief's going.
I think maybe possibly. But we wanted to let everybody know we're here to drop off the free tickets for your local law enforcement agency. Your officers don't pay anything to go to that. And I don't know, other than announcing, what else do we have, Carol? Carol's board member. Yeah. We invite you all to come to support your local agencies and your Fremont County agencies. We've granted money towards a lot of agencies in this county. We've really helped out with a lot of stuff. So this fundraising is critical for those kind of grants. Our grants usually get approved within about 5 minutes. I mean, it's literally, we get a 1-page grant online. It's usually our vice president who will jump on our group chat, say this agency asked for this much money for this, and then we vote right on the chat. So they get the money very quickly if they need it. So the money is not only there for equipment and law enforcement purposes, we also will help out any personal financial hardships that law enforcement's into. They can't pay the rent 1 month or something like that. We're going to pay it. We're going to take care of those kinds of things. So we just wanted to come and announce our 3rd annual formal event that we're having. It's not going to be much different than the last 2, other than it's going to be a really good time. It always is. So we wanted to, and it is at the fairgrounds at the Fremont Center this year. We're hoping for a little better turnout. The other building was a little bit small. So, but yes, formal invitation, Mayor, Council, please. Anybody else who would like to come, we would love to see you there. It's a great time. Doesn't go too late usually. So, but did you have anything else to add, Carol?
Well, and if you want tickets or corporate tables, or if you want to donate something to our silent auctions or our live auctions, you can just go to our website. It's fclef.org. And you can get tickets online there. If you just do the QR code, you can get tickets there and it'll take you to our Zeppi account. And that's pretty much it. Everything, and just to say that of a lot of the equipment and the tools and everything that our officers need they're very, very grateful. Every single time we've been able to grant that, they're just like, thank you so much.
I was very grateful to get rid of the last one. The sheriff's office requested bags with door breachers, bolt cutters, and toe chains, and we had to carry all that stuff up to the sheriff's office and drop it off for him. But we were very ready to get rid of all that stuff. But yeah, just a quick note and an invite. We'd like to see anybody that can make it come.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. And more importantly, thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Okay.
assuming you want comments on Title II during this section?
Yes, please.
Okay, perfect. I'm Michelle Motherway, Mr. D's Food Center, resident of Lander. Miss Mayor and Council, I would like to recognize first the work that you put on this version of Title II, the sales and licensing and use of alcohol. It has come a very long way since it first appeared, and I thank you for that. However, I do believe that it still needs some fleshing out and thought before it is approved. I'm standing here representing my family and also the majority of the owners and purveyors of liquor sales in Lander and encouraging the council to vote no or table tonight for many reasons. When you make an ordinance or a policy changes, I would hope that you seek the most qualified experts to guide you. I feel we, the group of liquor license holders, are the experts on sales of alcohol in Lander, Wyoming. You say we are in good standings, but you have failed to follow our suggestions and guidance on a few key areas. Councilwoman Cox reached out to me today and asked me my 3 top issues as I see them. Number 1, we still stand united against suspension. This action will most likely close that business, which honestly could be your intention. We as a group have stated this from the beginning. Points and demerits, we in every meeting as a group have asked for the removal of this. We have stated, fine us, we will do the work to fix the issues, but we don't need points or demerits. We are begging you to not take our livelihoods away. This creates such a state of fear. Number 2, and we're in section 233E. This reads to me that no person under 21 can be in a liquor store. So hypothetically, if a mom and a teen or even a child come into the liquor store at Mr. D's, we must remove the minor, possibly losing a customer, and then, according to 231, must call the police department for failure to notify law enforcement concerning removal of a person. These things hold a $500 fine and 10 points. This is the letter of this ordinance. I know that it is not the intention of the ordinance, but it is the letter of it. Number 3, section 321, under mandatory standards, portion D, report other criminal activity. Out of fear of receiving points and fines because we provide a service, which happens to be the sale of alcohol, the crime of littering, if seen by my employees or my staff, must be reported because it is mandatory standard and it is a crime. We understand that this is not the intention again, but it is as written. I can list multiple other changes that need to be addressed, and I understand the thought and intention of this ordinance, and I am not opposed to change. But Lander is in need of positive, not punitive change. Ordinances like this make businesses fearful and create an us against you mentality. Please, let's move forward together and make Lander an amazing community. We all believe it should be. Vote no to table, or vote to table, or vote no tonight on this ordinance and send the message that you are listening to your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Anyone else?
Council, for the record, my name is Ron Hansen. I'm owner of the One Stop Market in Lander. So first I want to start by saying that I realize you guys have a job to do. And sometimes that isn't all it's cracked up to be. You got to make some tough decisions and deal with some not so friendly faces. This is probably one of those situations. I can't speak for other retailers here, but I can speak on my behalf. I've been in business here in Lander since 1996. And I've had 2 infractions in 28 years. I know Michelle, I know Mike Bailey, I know some other folks here. And I stay in pretty close contact with Kyle. I don't think we have a rampant underage selling issue here. It appears that we have an issue and that we're looking for a problem and a solution all at the same time for a problem that doesn't exist. So I'm going to ask you, do we have an underage selling problem? In your minds, do we have that? Anybody?
So, yeah, so typically we don't interact on this,
So-
but
so
we
I-
will
I
note
thi- I
that,
think
that we
it's-
did have youth services come to a meeting recently, and they were quite clear that there is a significant problem of alcohol getting to minors.
And how?
Uh,
From retailers?
Unknown the transmission. I can't speak to that with certainty of how it's being done.
Okay. Well, I can emphatically state that I doubt it's through the retail channel. Now, am I 100%? No. Mistakes happen? Absolutely. And I'll go through that here in just a second. But I think Michelle is right, is a lot of the business owners right now, this is a fearful process that we're going through. This isn't just a fine and, your name in the paper. This is the end of a business, potentially. And I know that I keep hearing, well, that's not the intent. Well, it's in the code. It's written on the 30th demerit point that is a possibility. So I want to kind of back into this of saying, I think that the problem, I don't disagree that youth, because I was once that way. I grew up in Lander, and I remember getting alcohol all the time. And not proud to say that, but I was a kid. I was 16 and I think I knew it all. And we didn't get it through retail stores. We knew people, stole it from our parents, went out to dad's beer garage and heisted it out of that. We did what kids do, but we all take our job pretty damn seriously. I don't enjoy this process. My reputation as a business owner matters. And I take that seriously. I don't want my staff selling to alcohol or alcohol to minors. I train my staff, I train my processes and refine them over and over and over every week. This is the stuff that literally keeps me awake at night. I worry about this because it's not just an impact to me, it's the impact to my employees and their families. It's the impact to my business partners. I have distributors that I buy from. That impacts them and their families. I have banking arrangements. And today I met with a banker and I asked him hypothetically, said, I'll leave his name out of it, but with the local bank here, I said, hypothetically speaking, if I have exposure to a liquor license and I want to publicly state that to you, Mr. Banker, and here's this proposed Title II legislation of which he was aware of. And he said, yes, please explain that to me. So we went through the ordinance, started explaining it. I said, does that change your view of our business relationship? And he emphatically stated, yes, it does. Banks are in the business of risk mitigation. They do not want to take over a business. They want that business to take a loan, make their loan payment, pay their interest, and move on. They have no interest in running or taking over a business. But he said, I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. And I asked, well, in what respect would that relationship change? Let's say I was coming to open up a new bar and grill. And he goes, generally speaking, it's 20 to 25 to 30% equity to go into a commercial deal. And he said that would probably go to 60%. There would be additional personal guarantees. Now that's a big ask in today's environment where, especially commercial development, all development, but especially commercial development, it's expensive. And I know some of you know that. It's hard enough doing business in Lander as it is. And now this is on the record with banking. Kyle Vasilopoulos brought that up before. I think it was kind of brushed aside as, no, that's not really, it's real. The banks are aware of it, and they are going to change how they deal with customers such as myself, because I have exposure. I've brought them additional risk now that they need to take account for.
So, Mr. Hanson, you're at actually beyond the 3 minute. If you can summarize your comment,
Okay.
that would be
All right.
appreciated.
So quickly, I'll summarize this. I think there's lots of solutions here. I don't dispute that retailers are wanting to be a part of the solution to this. I don't feel a lot of our recommendations are being met. There's probably a combined experience of over 100. I've been in business for 28 years. I know the mother ways of, I mean, I was a kid growing up with the Dussel family. There's probably an aggregate of 100 years of retail experience in this business. And I don't know that anybody here has owned a business in the retail or the liquor store spectrum. And yet, no, our recommendations and our insights are not being addressed. And that's frustrating. Because when it hits the fan for me, it's not just me again. It's my staff, it's my family, it's my staff's family, it's my partners, it's my banking relationships, and it's community. And business is hard, Lander. It's really hard. You don't need any more vacant buildings up and down Main Street, because look where that got us. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else, please?
Name is John Nolan. I don't own any businesses. I'm retired. So you do this, and I'm going to say we have 3 or 4 liquor stores or places that you can buy beer, wine, and all that good stuff. So you start closing them down. If they do one infraction or 2 infractions, you start closing them down. That's revenue. Our streets are crap here, garbage. I have driven in better streets in Mexico and in Europe than here. We don't address that because we can't. The hospital, you don't do enough for the hospital here. Not that you can or you can't, but we have a garbage hospital. I was told when I moved here 14 years ago, if you can, drive to Casper, drive to Denver, drive to Salt Lake. Don't let them work on you here. They did. They did a finger. I pinched the end of it off. I trust Dr. G, but you're worried about something that don't take the business, don't attempt to take the business, find the people. I worked at my mom's restaurant where I came from, and one person tried to sell wine to a underage person. That person got fined and my mom got fined. Let it go at that. Don't try to take the businesses, because you do, you're going to lose revenue. And guess what happens when you lose revenue? People move, and streets and everything else goes to garbage because you don't have the revenue. They bring in a lot. Well, I can't buy beer here. I'm not going to rent a hotel. I'll go to into Cody Rose or wherever to rent a hotel and to buy beer there. So you lose revenue, you lose business, the city goes to crap. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for letting me be here tonight. I won't repeat some of the stuff that the other people have already said for the sake of time. My main thing is on your violations that you're going to do your penalties on. To me, failure to pay sales tax is something that the state of Wyoming already manages themselves. And if you apply to renew your liquor license and your sales tax isn't paid, they're going to deny it. So I think that sort of takes care of itself. So I don't know that we need an additional $1,000 fine and 14 points, which is 1 point from possibly getting shut down. I'm totally fine with a sale to minors and a sale to intoxicated persons and that kind of stuff. Again, I think, unauthorized gambling is already illegal, whether you're running a liquor store or any other business. And so again, I think that's already a crime. Failure to maintain adequate records is 30 points, which basically is going to shut you down for a week. Again, I think those are a little extensive. I don't think the liquor dealers that are in town have a problem with, being told that we have so in one of our previous meetings, I explained that we have a 0 tolerance policy in our stores. If you sell alcohol, tobacco, anything to somebody underage or that's intoxicated, you're fired. And we talked about how long that takes for them to be cited, for example. And I asked Chief Waugh I said, I want to know right away. And so guess what? Here the other day, they did an alcohol sting and he caught one of my people selling to somebody underage. He called me up an hour later. The hardest job that I have to do as a business owner, I had to go let that young man go. And I didn't like it. He was actually a pretty good employee, but he messed up. And so I think we're all trying to do our best and follow the rules And again, I think some of the penalties and stuff are a little, a little high. And so I guess I would just recommend that you guys cut this down to just the major things, which is selling to minors, selling to intoxicated people, the things that are really causing the problems that the chief has talked about and you guys have talked about. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate your comments on that.
Hi, good evening. My name's Carl Asbell. I'm just a concerned private citizen that would like to speak on behalf of small business in Lander, Wyoming. It's concerning to me that these issues are rising and making it harder on businesses to do business in Lander, Wyoming. Any type of regulation that takes place, it's just one more thing that these people have to deal with and look over their shoulder when they should be able to have productive businesses and have a positive attitude from the city of Lander to help them thrive in the city of Lander instead of having to look at more and more regulations. The alcohol industry, I happen to know a little bit about. It's a highly regulated industry to begin with. It's one of the highest regulated industries, not only here, but in the country. So there are rules and regulations already in place when these people have major infractions or violations that are there to curtail that type of behavior. So I think there already are things that could be taking place. Education and things going forward certainly could be used. But the numbers I see, alcohol consumption is actually on the decline, not only in the United States, but in the state of Wyoming. So I'm not sure what the problem is exactly. I grew up here as well. There are ways to get alcohol when you're a minor. There's no question about that. I would say the majority of that's taking place by finding someone that will buy the alcohol for you, and then as a minor, you consume it. It's not necessarily minors going into these businesses and doing that on their own. The business owners have a tremendous amount of risk already at stake just being in business. I would ask that you consider not putting any more pressure on them to try to uphold rules that are already there and infraction penalties that can be taken care of with laws already on the books. So please consider it's difficult for these people to maintain businesses in Lander. I don't know how many of you people have owned and operated your own business, but it's hard. And in a small market, it's even harder. And so when you look at implementing more regulation and more penalties that could potentially penalize these people for doing what they want to do and provide customer service to the city of Lander, it's going to make it even harder to continue to do that. So I'm not so sure if it won't cause a little extra work burden for the police and the police department with the city of Lander also, that I'm sure they have plenty on their plate already too. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming up and sharing your thoughts.
Hi, I'm Amanda Winchester. I used to own Main Street Books here in Lander, and we closed it. And one of the reasons we closed it is just like they're talking about how hard it is to run a small business here in town. You put more regulations on those businesses and you're going to see all of them close. We're not going to have much in this town. You look down Main Street where we had our bookstore, and it's sad. I mean, we almost have no retail businesses downtown. I think you guys need to look at what the community does for all of us, even as business owners, and what they provide to help provide jobs. They provide income for the city. You know, all those things benefit you guys as the city of Lander, but you're also wanting to put these restrictions on them. Then they're going to struggle more and they're not going to be able to hire as many people. They're going to have close down their shop. You know, I know exactly, I closed 2 businesses in this town, and I know exactly why we did, because of lack of support from the community and lack of resources to keep us going. You know, you want to be another small town in the state of Wyoming that has nothing down their main street, nothing in their community, then, I mean, you keep putting regulations and you keep putting those things out there, and they're going to have no choice but close. I also am a teacher at the college at CWC. And I deal with those students that maybe you're talking about getting alcohol and things, you know, those kids are going to find alcohol no matter what you do. The high school kids are going to find alcohol no matter what you do. It's a matter of, you know, having those checks and balances that the stores already have in place and allowing them to do what they need to do to keep it successful. But you need to work with them, not fight against them. So that's my thoughts from owning a couple businesses here in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming forward.
Hi, my name's Christine Gilbertson and I manage the Maverick, and we're under a very dark shadow right now. We can't keep staff because of what happened at our place. Not the place's fault, not anybody that works there's fault. And then myself almost fell to Sting last week because I came into work in a bad mood because I got called in 10 minutes before the shift began. But I still passed it because when I got in front of the child, he received nothing from us. I don't know that we've lost a Sting in 10 years, actually. I think none of us want to serve a minor. None of us want to create a problem because children drinking becomes adults drinking too much in my books. And so, but we still want to operate a clean business and be able to maintain employees, which we can't right now because people are afraid to work there because of the way the talk's going. We have so much stress at the Maverick right now, it's unreal. And I've been there for 10 years and I've been in the alcohol and food business for over 40 years. And so putting more regulations on us makes it tougher. It really does. And the point system truly sucks. It really does. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I appreciate you stepping up.
Hi, I'm Christina Kaiser. I am the manager of the One Stop Market for Ron Hansen. I've worked there for 27 years. I've managed for about 8. We do tips. We make sure all of our employees are tips trained. We have a 0 tolerance. In the years I've worked there, we failed twice. They've been fired on the spot. We take you guys very seriously. We try very hard not to sell to minors. Everything we do is for the people of Lander. And this is scary. This is my livelihood. Sorry, this is my family's livelihood. This is Ron's livelihood. We do our best. And now we're scared. I know the mother ways. My husband worked there for 36 years. There's 0 tolerance too. I don't like to be scared. If you guys could just table this just for a little bit. Let us show you that we're doing what we can. That's all.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming forward. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comment portion. And we'll move on to mayor and council updates, starting with you, Councilmember Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things that I'd like to point out. And first of all, Lance, if you could give the Parks and Rec guys a huge pat on the back. You know, I don't know if anybody's been by and seen the new dugouts there at the Little League field, and the backstop that they've kind of helped make disaster proof there as far as balls getting underneath there and whacking people in the stands. And then it's the same thing down there at the girls softball field. You know, there's a lot of things that have changed there over this last year, and appreciate their efforts in getting that done. And that's all I've got, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cassidy.
Mayor, council staff, nothing at this time.
Councilmember Danhon.
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a couple of updates. LIDA had a meeting last week and they are re-engaging in some strategies to improve attendance with board and then also coming up with they need to have a mission. They need to have goals and they've recommitted. But that being said, there is the Wyoming Outdoor Weekend that will be in May.
Mhm.
And so just being prepared that that's on its way and that's a partnership with LIDA as well. The chamber, I had an opportunity to meet with them yesterday and today, 2 meetings. And I learned a lot. And they have the new director, Brian Fable, who was there previously. And that was a good interaction as well as far as city relationships. I know that they've met with some other city employees and having some good communication, how we can continue to, something that kind of resonated with me here is how do we work together? How do we sort of build these bridges and these gaps that happen over time? And Brian is very interested in doing that. So I'm sure if you're a business owner sitting here, you will probably be contacted by him because I know that he's looking at ways to make relationships better and also that with the city as well, which I find incredible. I do want to comment on the parks. I echo what you're saying. Our parks look fantastic. The baseball fields look good. The softball fields looked good, but also the softball, there's a high school team now and there's been a coach hired and they're going to play at the North Park, which is really kind of a cool, I really like that. That's a good decision. I don't know who made it, but I approve. I don't know if you guys know, but that field over there is actually in really good shape in a lot of ways. But anyway, it makes sense. And that's where they're going to play. Do you want to ask why?
Why they're playing there or why?
Yeah, versus the softball field?
Yeah, because we know the softball fields will flood in the springtime when their practices need to be. Yep.
You'd be good. It's awesome. And then also I had an opportunity to attend. This isn't really city business, so I apologize and I'll keep it very short, but I had the opportunity to attend the regional basketball tournament in Powell. It was in Lovell, Wyoming over the weekend. And our kids really represented our community well. Both had earned their way to the state tournament. The boys hadn't been to state since 2018 or 19, I think. But just overall very impressed with how they carried themselves, how they represent Lander, not only their high school, but also our community. And I think that's all.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Stubble.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'll just start with again, a thank you to everyone who's here tonight to weigh in our business. To those of you who've given comments tonight or in writing at previous meetings, I know it takes a lot and it means a ton to us and to me that you come and share your insights. I know we do our best work when we hear from experts in the topics that we're weighing in on, when we're designing, when we have solutions brought to us, when we have ideas brought to us. And honestly, far too often that doesn't happen. And we are, really thirsty for that kind of input from the community on various issues and do our best to get out there and ask for it. So the fact that you're here of your own volition, bringing forth ideas, sticking with us through over at least 6 months now of process on Title II, I'm really grateful. I'm confident that we have made adjustments according to what we've heard. I know I've brought those intentions. I've seen other council members bring those intentions. And so what I'm hearing tonight from those present, maybe we haven't quite hit the mark yet. But those certainly have been what we've tried to do, is to say, here's a draft, let's work it together, bring us what you know, and we'll consider it, because I think there are still some important reasons behind what we're trying to do. I hate that means that you might be here motivated out of a sense of fear or stress or worry. I hope we get to a place where we have folks coming to weigh in and give us input, not because of those feelings, frankly. So thank you again. It takes a lot to come forward and take your time tonight to help us out. Mayor, I will comment just a little bit on some of the relevant items coming out of the legislative session for City of Lander. I won't do a comprehensive list, and I'm sure many of us were tracking issues, but I do want to name good news for us on the direct distribution, on air service funding, some interesting steps forward the legislature took on regulating kratom that we could take a look at as well. And then I'll end on House Bill 69, now enrolled Act 39, which has been in the news a little bit, but I want to get out here so we can have more input on this. This is around a land conveyance for land from the Department of Health up by the Life Resource Center. In two different conveyances are now authorized to be possible. One to YDOT, and one is a possibility for residential use. So the parcel split up into different acreages for those two possible conveyances. And that was a public process for the legislature to go through, right? Extensive debate on getting this land conveyance through, but that'll kick off now more of a local process too, to weigh in on what do folks want to see, what's appropriate for that area of land, you know, the YDOT facility, residential. And so that will begin on, I mean, it's kind of begun now, but I'll name on March 23rd, that's a Monday night, just double checking my notes here. YDOT has announced a public meeting that will begin at 6:30 p.m. at the CWC Lander campus to, I assume, present the ideas and gather input on that possible use of YDOT land up there at the, what's the city street name? I should know the science. Up by the Life Resource Center, behind Maven.
Yeah.
There. Thank you. Enterprise Boulevard. So please join if that's an area of interest for you on that YDOT potential move and that land conveyance. Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Josh Hahn.
I got nothing this evening, Mayor.
Okay, I've got a few things. Councilmember Stubble, thank you for your comments both about the Title II process as well as the legislative updates. Those are great to have. Couple things for me coming up. I'd encourage all of us, Patrick Edwards from Wyoming Business Council wants to have the chance to speak to folks, so please take advantage of that. Had a great meeting with the LOTRA board a little bit ago, and Regine can speak more to that when we get to that part of our agenda topic. Next week, I'll be in DC with a few others from WAM with the National League of Cities time. So again, an opportunity to be able to speak with our congressional representatives in ways that they can support the communities in this state. To look forward to having some good conversations there. The Wyoming Outdoor Weekend is May 15th and 16th, so folks can get that on their calendar for it. And I was just part of a meeting, the Wind River Outdoor Recreation Collaborative, and one of the topics being addressed was that the application for the first round of funding through the Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund is now open. They anticipate about $2 million being available for allocation in this round, and learned that here in Fremont County, there's different suggested percentages of match and funding. And Fremont County is one of the lower required matches. So it's a 30-70. So a local entity would provide 30% of the funding and 70% potentially from the Outdoor Rec Trust Fund. So given that we have a strong recreation economy here, I would imagine there's going to be at least an idea or two or application being sent to them for that. And again, likewise on a related topic, we currently have 6 Lander youth in Hayward, Wisconsin with other skiers from around the whole country at junior nationals, which is really neat for them to have that opportunity. Wyoming and Minnesota are the only states that are scholastic based, and all the other regions that are there have year-round training programs. So it's pretty neat for our kids to be able to hold their own against much larger and more sophisticated entities. So you know me and my passion for skiing and kids in general, and I'm really proud of these 6 kids. They're awesome. So with that, I'll turn it over to staff, please, starting with you, Chief.
Mayor, Council, thank you. Moving forward on some of the stuff we talked about as far as the 2026 goals for the agency, we did have our chamber lunch and learn on the safety training. By the end of that, we had business owners signing up before they left. We've actually already been in their businesses, helping them with safety plans moving forward. So that's pretty exciting. First rough draft of our domestic violence pamphlet that we're using. I've given one to Councilwoman Cox due to her experience here and resources to overview. That's something we're moving forward on our domestic violence plan. Lance and I, if you remember, we teamed up and bought, it's called a GMR. It's like a speed study that we're using effectively right now in school zones and areas where we're talking about signage and safety for crosswalks. So just moving forward, things are good. If anybody has any questions for me.
Any questions for the chief? We'll have more time with you later on the agenda. Yep. Lance?
Thanks, Mayor and Council. Just a quick update. Lincoln Street construction should start in a couple weeks. So we should see that going. And then I guess we'll have Buena Vista construction this summer too, once we get contracts finalized. So starting to get to that season where things will be starting up around town again. I guess this year probably could have not stopped, which is crazy to think about, but
If only we'd known.
we'll see those impacts again. And we've been seeing the contractor reach out to business owners and doing a good job of coordinating closures and schedules. So hopefully this goes pretty well this summer.
Okay.
Happy to
Thank you.
answer any questions.
Questions for Lance?
I think, Mayor, just a comment. It is nice that that outreach is already happening with our businesses, because I know last year or during the process, there was some definite impact to businesses. And so I do appreciate that from High Country Construction, that they've started that process.
Anything else?
Lance, on that Buena Vista, do you have just a rough estimate of when that will begin?
And so contracting can take up to a month. Yeah, and so you'll approve hopefully all the final contracting to be done, but they'll have to give back insurance and bonding to us, and then we'll sign the agreement once we receive it. So after that, they'll be into contract to proceed. So they could start anytime after that. A lot of that beginning of construction is ordering materials, submitting, getting all the approvals of what they're trying to buy for the project.
And do you have an idea yet how they're going to phase that? Like where?
Part of the submittals are a schedule. And so once we get that initial schedule, we'll know how much work they're going to do this year versus how much work they're going to do next year.
All right.
I'll
Thanks.
present that to you when I get it.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Lance? Okay, Reggie, we'll move on to you, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll add to the construction this summer. We're going to add the Jefferson Street extension into the new city Poposia River Park. And the pre-construction meeting is March 26th. All of that pre-construction contracting has been done, so they will be starting here in April. Anne asked me to make some community engagement announcements. Of course, we have our open house tomorrow, 3 to 6 p.m. at the community center. If you want to learn about our construction projects or talk to a city staff person, that is the place to be tomorrow between 3 and 6. The police department is participating in the Lander Elks Bike Rodeo on March 21st. And the Chamber Awards are Friday, March 20th. Ann sent out an email to see if any of you wanted to sit at the table for the Chamber Awards luncheon. And then the next event we're going to as a staff is the Garden Expo on April 18th. And we're going to have the new water meters there. And we're going to show people how to sign up for the online program to look at your water usage. So, okay, that's all Ann's stuff. I did put in your shared drive some small grant requests that are going on. Most of these are lower grants because they are phasing out, and there's quite a few of them. I won't mention them all, but I know that Parks and Recreation, Equipment and Facilities, there's grants in your file for $72,910 from various different sponsors coming through LOR. And LOR, if they fund every one of them, will be $64,000 worth. So that's a pretty good chunk of change. The remainder of that would have to come out of the Parks and Rec budget. So you'll see that request during budget process. Also, Parks and Rec put in the Urban Forest Council replanting trees on Main for $5,000, and the rest of that will be in the Parks budget. There's a $1,500 TAD grant to advertise Lander Lights On Parade with the LVHS events going on that night. And then another LOR grant is $25,000 for a flashing beacon crossing at the library. That's at 2nd and Amaretti. That's sponsored by Wyoming Pathways, but if we're awarded that, that will come through this summer. The last one is the police department has applied for a NHTSA grant, and that pays for staff for high visibility for DUIs. So that's, if you have any questions on that after you look at it in your shared drive, go ahead and give me a call.
Thank you. Any questions for Regine?
Yes,
Member Stubble. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Regine, this might be actually for Lance. You guys can decide. But the flashing beacon light at the library on 2nd, awesome that we're improving safety at that crossing. Are we on board that being that style of a crossing? Have we been consulting with Pathways? Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Did you go there?
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, Chief's weighing in.
I just have a weigh in quickly on the NHTSA grant that she's talking to you about. That's something that we've received every single year when we've talked about federal funding for traffic management. It was new to me. I learned that this should be done every year, and former Chief Peters did not do it, letting you know that that grant, we don't technically apply for it. They reach out to us, said, this is what we're available. Do you want it or not? And we always, of course, answer yes. That's what that is, just to clarify.
Thank you for the clarification. Anything else?
I do have a quick question on NHTSA. Have they rolled out, because there's some research that suggests that compliance and or arresting doesn't solve the DUI problem. We all know that. So they're moving towards some research that suggests that once you make the arrest, that there's steps after. Do you know if that's being implemented in this grant, or is that a ways down the road?
That's a ways down the road, Councilwoman. That's something that's actually a hot topic for the Governor's Council right now. Is there's a lot of research going on people that are arrested specific to fatalities, if they had priors, what their prior was, what their punishment was prior. So they're starting to do a lot of the way deep data to push forward of what it means moving forward. How do they address that? The numbers that they give us right now, quite frankly, are grants actually going down because we've been successful with our multi-jurisdiction team. They look at speed crashes, impaired fatalities, and they look in your area, and based on the volume of those is how they determine how much money they're going to give you. So ours is going down because our DUI team has been successful.
So that the trend downward means that there's a deterrent in some capacity and that people are aware that there's a chance that they could get caught, which is excellent. We want to see that. So it might be really interesting for us. My suggestion would be that we do a little bit more of a deep dive into the DUI arrests that we are making with this task force to understand more of the root cause to then potentially solve it. And then
There's some of that being applied right now. I've been very lucky with Rachel. She understands where I'm at. She came from a data-driven under Chief Adrian's, and my goal probably within the next month is to get to you and to the Riverton City Council, Shoshone City Council, the active agencies in this, and show them, one, the reduction of call volume while we're there, two, the residual reduction over the next several days, how it impacts their crime and what that looks like. My hope is in that we'll be able to start fine tuning some of the source of why and how.
That's excellent.
So I wanted to go back to that. It seems like a double-edged sword that because you're successful, funding is being cut. So at some point, that will limit the amount of activity that can happen and potentially have incidences increase.
All right. One of the saving graces, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, is there's occupational protection, which is the CPAL grant. And then there's impaired driving, which is per agency. This multi-jurisdiction team started the foundation across the state of, that's a grant in itself that's separate from those, that every agency is guaranteed $10,000 a year.
Okay.
So that funding hasn't changed. It's just individual to the agency, what we're getting.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. It would be a shame for activities to decrease when they're so successful. Okay. Anything else? Okay, Christy, we'll move on to you.
Hello. I have been busy, as you can hear by Lance and Regine. There's a lot of grants and a lot of projects that we have going on, and I'm learning and getting an understanding and a grasp on that. And the only other thing I really have to mention is, we're rolling out the budget later this week. And I will send out the schedule. I think that for you all, I think that we were going to meet with the mayor and the councilman around April 30th. And we had, like, the regular meeting would be May 12th. And we would hope by like June 9th, we should get it hopefully approved. And I think that gives us a few days Rochelle, right, to get it to the state before the due date. So if anybody has any questions.
I think it's the April 28th would be the work session for the budget.
Oh, yes.
That's our dedicated day. Shari has trained us well. We'll continue that trend as well for them.
That was good.
Great. Any questions for Christy? Okay, Adam, give us your standard line.
I don't have anything tonight, but if somebody has a question, I'll try not to cough on you.
Yep. Any questions for Adam? Okay, see none. Rochelle?
Thanks for a very helpful comment. The main update I had to bring back to council was when you approved the liquor licenses in January, the Wild West Warehouse doing business as Grizzly was conditionally approved. And we did get a communication from that owner mid-February that he was going to relinquish his license. So that's my update. According to the state liquor division, then we now have 2 open bar and grill licenses. We're allowed 4.
Think that any questions for Rochelle? Okay, with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. So one thing I wanted to note here before we dive into it is there's F through K are items that we have previously agreed to. This is changing our interest rate from a higher rate to a lower rate. And this is a change requested from the state side to include the promissory note. So if you remember several meetings ago, Adam noted that when we have things like that that are fairly standard, they can be added to the consent agenda to be a little quicker item. So that's why those are included here. So can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
And so moved by Councilmember Cox and seconded by Councilmember Larson. Is there anything that needs to be pulled for discussion? Councilmember Hahn?
Yes, I have a couple of questions on bills and claims.
Great. Yes, what are your questions?
Why, okay.
Yeah. Do you want to pull them or do you have?
No,
questions?
no, I just, last time I did that, I thought I got in trouble when I was
Oh, no.
talking
We
about
have
it.
questions. Those are good.
Okay, the Boyle Electric, it's power run to the to a vault for the solar power. Have they started on the solar here at City Hall?
No, I don't believe so. Lance, can you fill us in?
Yeah, we have not made a decision to move forward on that one. It came in a little bit higher, and I think that's still discussion on whether the solar is going to be put on this building or not. But the electric was run to that vault, and that was so that we can use those solar panels at a different vault too. It's right next to the building by YDOT and Public Works. So that was electric run to it to replace it.
Okay. And one other question. This payment for WAM, this 10,321, is that our first payment to Shari, or is this just a WAM? I'm not sure how that was going to be billed out.
I believe, yes, that's our first payment to WAM for Shari's time.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that is that. Okay, thank you very much.
Yep. Then, great. Anything else for a question? Okay, with that, call for the question, Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 Sorry. I was just gonna say, on the WAM one, it was 2 different invoices, and part of that was to carry over from when her end date until I started. And then there was the other half of it was for training me. So just to make that clarification.
Thank you, and I apologize. I should have asked you to weigh in before going down that road. Okay, back to call for the question. We had. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Great, motion passes. Okay, moving on to our first new business non-action item. So the potential overtime policy change discussion. And so Chief, I wanted to start with you and start with thanking you very much for the email that you provided to us. That was a request we had for it. And so I appreciate that you did it and also appreciate the specificity that staff responded to that question. I think that speaks highly of their confidence in you and wanting to share some of concerns they have for it. I think it would be helpful for all of us here as well as folks in the audience. Could we move through some of your points? You and I have been able to have some conversation, other other council members have, but I don't think everyone has. So if we can do that in a fairly straightforward manner, I think that would help all of us for that, if you're amenable to it. So,
Well, first of all, I don't think I have a choice if I'm amendable or not, but I'll just key point some of probably the ones that were weighed in on the most. I did my best to try and streamline what was open conversation, but from the compensation standpoint, the additional 11 hours per pay effectively increases the baseline hours required to work before overtime is triggered. The perception to them is this: if we move from 160 to 171, we're requiring 11 more hours of their time that they're not required right now, remaining at the same pay. So they're either taking a pay cut or they're working for free if we move the minimum to 171. So I think there needs to be some clarification, and we've used the term hard 171, soft 171 a couple times, and I think it's a little bit muddy in the sense of some people perceive that means you can use PTO to make your base pay. My perception and what I'm getting from my staff is this: if they're scheduled to work 168 hours a month and they do not get to 171, are they still getting their base wage? And they are, the way we're set up right now, because they
Yes.
are.
yeah, so can I put a fine point on that?
Yeah.
Interject that. So PD is absolutely welcome to continue structuring their schedules at 168 with a flex of 8 hours. And folks will still get the same pay. They're not being required to put in more hours. What the element that changes is they won't be eligible for overtime pay unless they're either called in. If they're detectives, they would still get that. We just need to call it something other than overtime pay. But all other staff would be eligible for overtime, true overtime pay at 171, but we're not asking them to work more hours than they're currently scheduled. Just want to put a fine point on that. That is our intent.
And that was some of their confusion. If now they're going to have to work more hours to retain the same pay, which I think that clarifies that. The other side of it is that we have currently 2 detectives that are on call. They are not paid to be on call, but in their mind, if they do get called in, they get paid overtime. That makes it worth their time being on call. If we do not have on-call pay per se, or whatever you want to call it, if it's not overtime, they're restricted on where they can go, what they can do, how far away from the phone they can be, and to never get called in or get compensated for that. Or they've worked their hours, but they're not at 171, so they're coming in and working called in overtime on the weekends for their base pay. So that's the question of, can we juncture where they get overtime pay if they're called in, or call it on-call pay or whatever you want, versus not compensating them at all for being on call? Because right now we don't do that.
Right. So can you, do you believe it's feasible, we call it call-in pay instead of overtime and maintain the same structure, simply changing the nomenclature?
I think that's fine, because if they get called in, they're going to get compensated a premium rate for it. And I think they're okay with that. If they're 80 hours in, 2 weeks in, and they get called in and they don't get a premium pay or anything, and they never reach 171, none of that's overtime or a premium pay.
Okay.
The biggest thing that vocally was from them is, the fear from them is, if we move this juncture, is this the beginning of trying to take benefits that they have away from them? Some of the work that I did was I called other municipalities, other places, and asked them, one, have you ever crossed this bridge? And if so, how did you do it? How did you compensate it or call it fair? And there isn't anybody else, not that I've found, that it ever started at 160 and then moved to 171. Generally, most of them, as police departments, first responder, fire, they've all started at 171. So trying to, in their mind, perception, take a benefit away from them that they've always had is the uphill climb.
Thank you for that. So my last question for you, and I'll open up for others. It sounds like you believe there are ways to mitigate staff concerns for this. Does this change your initial interest in, you expressed favorably switching to 171?
I think 171 is the federal standard that everybody falls by. And for us to be in federal compliance, we have to be at 171. But I think if we're still under the understanding, as long as they work the hours they're scheduled, like they do now, they get their base pay. They're not going to be required to work 11 more hours a month is what it would be, because right now they're scheduled at 168. We make them flex 8, so they're at 160. Their original perception was we were going to make them work 171, so that would be 11 more hours that they didn't have before, that we're making them work now for the same pay. As long as that's not the standard, a few of them have came to me and said they really don't have a problem with this going to 171. They understand that's the federal standard. As long as we're not going to take time away from them that they already have off, and they're still going to make the same amount of money that they make now.
Thank you for that clarification. Other questions for Chief from that? Thank you for walking us through and addressing some of the concerns you brought forward.
Mayor, if I may, thank you, Councilman. I think I will say that I'm fairly wary of making this change, and I'm really grateful for the detailed feedback that you've been gathering, and Lance, you and the staff who might be affected or have overtime too. So let me just zero in on one thing you just said there, Chief. Though I heard you say we're out of compliance with the federal standard. Is that? Can you tell us more about that? Because I was understanding they were unaligned with the federal standard, but out of compliance tells me that there might be more like harm to us or consequences.
Compliance was the wrong term.
Okay. And I'm sorry to I don't mean to pick on you
No,
on that
thanks
issue,
for
but just
clarifying. That's the wrong term. It's not, we're not reaching the federal standard. It's not a compliance issue.
So it is a discretionary choice for us of, yes, there's a federal standard. We're taking a good hard look at, do we want to meet that? But there's no harm to us if we don't, if we choose to stick with our 161.
No, you're completely within the law to be more generous, which
Thank
is
you.
what we're doing.
Thank you. That's what thank you so much. Well, then that being said, I don't have a question, Mayor, but do you want to entertain our, I'll keep going, our comments on this, I guess. I do think, Council, and I'd like to hear from staff about how this could look. If we grandfather in current employees and we apply this change to new hires. And here's what I'm thinking on that. You know, I think we have a very generous standard here. We have generous benefits in this system, and that helps make us competitive in a job market that we want to stay competitive in. We have perceived and perhaps some degree of real impacts that staff members have brought to us with a great degree of concern. I'm hearing your insight that we can mitigate that, so I take that seriously. But I have not heard yet in our discussions of this that there's actually real material harm to the city by this existing policy. You know, I think we've talked theoretically about how this might be abused, but we don't have systematic patterns of that abuse happening. We're not seeing a budgetary impact that in my mind would lead us to be motivated to make this change. And when I weigh that with wanting to keep a competitive work environment and employees feeling perceived and perhaps real harms as well, I'm like, what's the trade-off here? Why are we feeling so urgent to make this change? And I wonder if we can alleviate that, we can get to an alignment with federal standards and other police departments across the nation and state by grandfathering this in and having it phasing in. So we're not impacting current staff who have these concerns. We're not fixing a problem that I've heard us necessarily bring forward. So please correct me if I'm missing a real problem we're trying to solve here, but we get into alignment with less impact down the road.
Yeah. Thank you. I know there were other folks who wanted. Yeah, Councilmember Cassidy.
That suggestion, what does that look administratively? How does that look? Having, 10 years down the road, you have 4 additional employees and they are working according to different rules.
Well, if I'm being transparent, Councilman Cassidy, the city, I believe, has already set that standard with the accrual of vacation and sick. It was before my time, I think 2018-ish. They addressed the same issue where the accrual of time off changed They grandfathered in the people that were already there, and effective X date in 2018, anybody that came on after that acquired at a different rate. So I think that's doable. And I think realistically, in you and I's mutual concern, that does nothing to my culture, which is what I care about the most, is I don't want to deplete the culture of my agency. I think we're strong right now and we're moving forward very strong. So the last thing I would like to do is cut anything out from under them.
I have a couple questions. Thank you, Mayor. There's two thoughts that I'm having. And one is we address the issue of taking overtime when they've either had a holiday or a vacation or sick, that it's boots on the ground. So they only can earn, if you will, or have overtime compensation if they've actually worked. So that's separate and apart from this discussion. My next question would be, if we move to the 171, can we compensate for the adjustment in time? Do we have that in our budget?
I'd be happy to look at it. I don't feel comfortable just knee-jerk telling you yes or no, but I guess my view of that is this: if that's something that where you guys would like to head to 171 sooner without grandfathering in, then maybe it is a potential that we compensate them hourly somehow to adjust that change. I would have to research that a little bit. One of the last things that came up is if we went to a hard 171, so we add 11 hours, we're taking 11 hours away from them a month that they previously scheduled off, which would be 132 hours a year we're taking away from them that was scheduled time off.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a tricky change. Can I ask another question? How did we get here? Why are we here talking about the change?
Yeah, I mean,
I can answer that. So it started with the One Big Beautiful Bill. We had to provide, as a city and an organization, information to our employees concerning overtime so that they could take it to their tax preparers, whatever they were going to do with it, what percentage of it may or may not be deductible on their taxes. When you read that bill, it talks about overtime eligible under the Federal Standards Act, the Federal Labor Standards Act. The way we pay is different than that. So we had to go back for the last year, which we were happy to do, and it's completely doable, and break down the different categories and provide that in a letter to our employees, say, you know, we're not tax advising you in any way, shape, or form, but here's the information for you. Here's what we paid you for overtime based upon this number of hours. If we didn't count vacation, sick, and unpaid leave, this is what that would have looked like. And then for the police department, if we paid at 171, which is the federal standard, this is what it would look like. Go up and be happy. So that's how we got here, because then it started a conversation of like, well, why do we do that? Should we be doing that? And council is the policymakers. So.
I appreciate that clarification that it's actually coming from the Big Beautiful Bill and that there could be some regulations with what they're taxed then based on their overtime pay. Okay.
But that's how we got here.
that's why it's there. Yeah, and you know, again, I, as always, appreciate our thoughtful conversations and looking at it from multiple angles. And to one of your questions, Councilmember Stubble, about whether or not it should change. Again, I will say this as many times as I need to. Our employees are the lifeblood of this city, 100%. I support them. I want to take care of them. They do great work, and they're proud to be here, and I appreciate that. And I also feel an obligation to the taxpayers of our community and trying to balance, to me, an obligation to the taxpayers means being better aligned with the federal policy, recognizing that it has an impact on our staff. And as noted in when this first came up, I believe there are other ways that can be equally beneficial and more transparent to all involved, our staff and to our public, of ways to better compensating that, whether that as mentioned, maybe that's changing the amount that we support for the flexible savings for medical care costs, looking at multiple opportunities for how we structure medical insurance. Maybe we change percentage of what we contribute towards that because it's a shared cost. But again, to me, those are ways to acknowledge that there is a potential impact to our staff, and again, find more openly transparent ways to address that rather than having a kind of wonky policy. The idea of grandfathering folks in, understand we could then be running a double system for the next 20 years, which is likewise a complicated system and is going to take more staff time to do that. And it takes human time. It's not something that the systems manage. So again, anytime it has to be done manually, there's always, it increases the opportunity for mistakes as well, not to mention that the time to manage it. So those are my thoughts on it. Cade Mastis's voice is running through my head of, he often said, we know we're doing our job when the decisions we make please no one. And this might be one of those decisions where it causes equal consternation among all.
Thank you, Mayor, for those. You know, my concern is that I'd like to see the numbers, like hard numbers of this means this, taxpayer dollars. I mean, that's our job, appears the fiscal agent. And then in comparison and what the cost benefit is and whether we're saving, and this goes for everyone, if we're saving money, if we're, you know, what's the ripple effect to law enforcement? And then understanding all of that in one picture. So we actually know exactly dollar to cents what this means, how it impacts every employee, and then largely how then we can align with guidelines that we have as well. So that would be my suggestion, that we get a little bit more detailed information. You guys have done a good job. Your email was fantastic. I think all of us had an opportunity to review that and read that, and I appreciate that. And then I also really, really appreciate that you've asked those who are most affected, and then you've relayed that information to us. And yeah, people aren't always happy with what we do, but the reality is that it is important all the way around. So, yeah.
Thank you. Additional comments? Councilmember Cassidy.
Can you go back to that 132 number? Can you say that again?
If they have to work 11 more hours a month than they work right now, over 12 months, that's 132 hours in a year.
So that 171, is it accurate to say that that's a state or national standard? That most law enforcement agencies do 171? So our current patrol officers are in their community in uniform 132 hours less than their peers across the nation. Is that correct?
I don't think that's a fair statement to make because I don't know what schedules all of them work.
Sure. Can you refine that? Because if I'm wrong, like, just help me to understand that better.
So
Overtime aside, like optionality aside.
The reason that came to light is right now, under our current staffing, and in my very strong opinion, we're running at minimum staffing to keep training, vacation. I have 3 I know for sure, potentially more, that are maxed out on their bank of PTO that they can have. So we're doing our best in the self-help to get the time that they've earned taken off. So right now we're running at the minimum staffing we can at 160 hours a month.
Yeah.
And if we require them to work 11 more hours than they work right now, we're taking 132 hours away from them that they currently have off. That's what that number means.
Yeah.
For me to tell you if that's the national average or even state average, I'd have to call every single agency and figure out what their scheduling is and how many hours that they work. I mean, my guys work 12 hours, boots on the ground, every shift that they're scheduled.
And I'm not trying to make a qualitative statement on that.
Sure.
I'm trying to understand the math a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
And that, you know, the way that it was phrased was we can selectively be more generous, I think is what you said, right? And that's a choice that the city has made, and I have no problem with that. I'm just trying to understand it vis-a-vis peer municipalities, hours on the ground, you know, to pay for that amount of hours on the ground. And that 132 really hit me quite hard. And if it's a policy choice that we make, then that's totally fine, you know? But that's a big number.
Yeah, so if I may, Councilmember Cassidy, that was an interpretation of staff that it wasn't the overtime hours that would change, it's the required hours for the same salary.
Agreed, yeah.
And want to be really clear, what was being proposed was only for overtime to begin at 171 of boots on the ground. So not intending to change their schedule, not intending them to add 132 hours for that.
So this, it's easiest for me to say soft and hard. So if that confuses you, I apologize. But the intent of it not being required of 171 boots on the ground, and it's still okay to be at the 160, that truly came to fruition kind of like today to me with the conversation and with the mayor and Rochelle. So that hasn't been fully transferred to my staff yet. They don't know that they don't understand that that's what it would be. I just haven't had time to talk with all of them because this happened this afternoon with these two. So, and that may be a different, right? Like, quite honestly, I asked him for your full blunt honesty because I've not been hourly since I've been in Lander. At specifically your request, show me the blind spots. Tell me what they are because I don't know. It doesn't affect me. I get to work all the free hours I want to because I'm salary. So I need to know how it affects you. And these are just bullet points that they've all brought to me. And in my promise to you and to them, I did my best to put it on paper and give it to you how it made sense to me.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
The other confusing factor, like when I first started here 4 years ago or whatever, I was very surprised after I had conversations with the number of employees. The city of Lander pays every single employee a salary. We are salary based. No one is paid hourly unless they are part-time. But that doesn't mean they don't get overtime if they're non-exempt. So an officer, a water department employee, as long as they put their time in, they're going to get paid a set amount each and every month. The city of Lander made that determination with the dawn of time, apparently. I don't know, before my time. So when employees hear, 168, 171, then they know they're getting a flat amount, so there's more hours, and it sounds like potentially then they're having to work more hours before they're going to hit overtime. So that could happen.
Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember Stubble. Yeah.
Great. At the risk of being more of an idealist than Councilman Maestas, I actually want to aim for like equal neutrality. That's maybe being realistic. Equal positivity would be awesome. That's where I'd
Would be.
like us to get if we get to neutrality, but not equal consternation for most of our decisions. I hope I don't fail at that at Title II tonight as well, but want to aim there. So I think as we continue to refine our thinking on this, could staff, would you mind, whomever is applicable here, Rochelle, perhaps your chief, could you come back to us with the degree of administrative burden if we were to grandfather this in and we were to make a change from up to 171 for new hires in the police department only? I'd be curious to know how that impact would look for us internally. And then, Mayor, I think as we bring up other possible mitigations to say, here's a competitive, we want to have awesome benefits. We're so grateful to the staff who work for us, especially in the circumstances where they're coming in for overtime on water main breaks and police calls. When we turn to other benefits like you named, I get even more wary, I think, about whether or not that's transparent. But one question I have on that is if we looked at flexible spending, saying here's a benefit that is going to be less generous, right, on overtime, here's a benefit where we can add it in, perhaps on that flexible spending. We can't do that unequally, right? If we're adding an amount to flexible spending, that's every employee as well, which I wouldn't say I'm necessarily opposed to that debate. Let's have that conversation, but let's have that if that feels applicable to our full staff. It feels clunky and perhaps awkward to me to say for this select staff where the overtime benefits can be reduced in a way, here's a blanket addition over here. it doesn't feel quite like apples to apples to me.
I would be very reluctant to advocate for something that isn't applied equally across the board to every employee.
Yeah. And there, and Lance, we haven't heard from you because you also have a number of staff in streets and public works, et cetera, about that and how the overtime impacts them. But there is also impact to I'll call it the civilian side of city staff as well. And you've spoken to some of the things that have surfaced from this of there's some scheduling needs that can be better addressed so that some are, we'll call them chronic overtimers that while we appreciate their dedication, it's also indicating a lack of work-life balance and succession planning. So curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think that when I talked to the staff, they brought up one interesting point, and that's if they chose to use one of their sick or vacation or a holiday leave earlier in the week, and then we call them in on a Saturday or Sunday to respond, then they're still getting their salary only for that week up to some point. So it's the same sort of idea that that 8-hour day that they just worked on a Saturday that we call them in for wouldn't be compensated at time and a half anymore. And they were asking if they would get the holiday or the sick leave back to use in the future. So essentially, does that mean that we could flex something or work something out where we just didn't use some of our accrued leave for no reason? And so I think that was their point was, if we could do this and work it out in some sort of flexible way and we still get to take a day off somewhere else, that could work for them. The overtime benefit is nice because we get great response right now. And so I'm a little worried, if it's not great when we do call people in, does that change when we start calling if who's picking up the phone? And we do have 2 on-call employees on the weekend, but if something big happens, then we have to find other employees to come help. So just want to make sure that we have that pool of those employees when we do call.
Yeah, great. Thank you for those thoughts. Any questions for Lance or the chief? Or additional in general discussion points? Other than it seems obvious we're not ready to have a vote on this. Right. Okay, in that case, let's move on to 12A, the third reading. Oops, let me get to that so I can state it appropriately. 12A is approve the third and final reading of ordinance 2025-13, repealing City of Lander Municipal Code Title II, sale, licensing, and use of alcoholic and malt beverages, sections 211 through 251 in its entirety, and replacing it with Title II, sale, licensing, and use of alcoholic and malt beverages, sections 211 through 265. So if I could get a motion to approve in a second, and then I suspect there will be a new motion after that.
Mayor, I move we approve.
Okay, motioned by Councilmember Stubble. Can I get a second?
Yeah.
Oh,
Did.
and seconded by Councilmember Larson. Okay, open for discussion or potentially a new motion.
I would like to make a motion that we table. There are some really good points that were made tonight that I didn't see. And I have a whole list of things, and there's a couple of things I'd like to cross-reference with state statute, language-wise, specifically as it relates to 21 years old or under 21 years old that are in an establishment. That language wasn't clear. I'm happy to go through the whole list of amendments. I would like some more time. We have a really, really incredible engagement here with community. And we have 27 liquor licenses in town. We know that we have a constituent that lets us know exactly. So I'm thankful for that because then we always know. We have a good percentage of them here tonight. There's a couple concerns that I have. This is why I'm making the motion that we table and that we set a date for the next discussion because I think it's valuable. One, I never want businesses to feel like we aren't in support of what you do. I also don't want to overregulate. I want to know exactly what the ripple effect will be by these decisions, and we can't always know because those things will come down the line. I'm very concerned and I'm appreciative of the comment about, I know it's not the intention, but it's what's in the letter. And I know sitting here with this group that none of us intend any harm on a business. Absolutely no staff, no council member, but it is written in a way that could be perceived that way, for sure. And the comments are good. I do wish you would have been here in the second reading. The second reading was a little bit challenging because of the timing. No fault of your own. That's why we have 3 readings. And our one councilman, I hope he doesn't mind that I quote him, says, "We have to get it right, but not right now. And we have time." And this has been a well thought out process. It's been the best process we've had as a city ever when making change, because we've included the community input, we've included staff, we've had really good council discussions. So I'm going to make, based on just the length of amendments that I would have tonight, which would be about 20, that we table it, that we have a work session again. I would not suggest that we do it for 3 hours. We've really chewed this on. And I know that there's other council members that have amendments as well, that we'd have a discussion points at a work session, and that we would come back in 1 month at our next business meeting to vote on Title II.
Okay, so you're making a move to table until
Until-
April 14th. is
Yeah,
our
Mayor.
next business meeting.
That's right.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second it.
So seconded by Councilmember Josh Hahn. Any further discussion on that?
Yeah, I got something to say. I'm actually kind of ashamed to sit up here and be part of something that makes our community feel this sort of way. You know, that they feel in fear for their jobs, their business, their families. I don't think that's right. I don't feel good about sitting up here and doing this, and they've told us time after time, and it seems like we keep working on it, but we're ignoring parts of what they're saying when we should be listening to everything they're saying and trying to stand for our constituents per se. Because, you know, it's tough for everybody running a business or being an employee. It's tough right now. I just don't I don't like sitting up here and watching all these people spill their feelings about something that, you know, we came up with, we decide on. That's my feelings on it.
Thank you. Adam, I want to check in with you that we have appropriate timeline set for tabling this. So to move to our next scheduled business meeting is April 14th.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I want to make sure I's are dotted appropriately.
Mayor, and can we also interject the agenda that we'd put this on? I mean, I said that, but that we would also then put it on a work session to discuss. Or no?
Yes, and,
Okay.
and I would say, and I would make the request / even requirement that proposed amendments need to be submitted to Rochelle by close of, well, you usually getting the agenda out on a Thursday, so I'd say Thursday noon, because we all need the chance to read and think through those amendments ahead of time. Bringing them at the meeting just it does not give us our best work. So I understand folks have amendments. That's awesome. Each person who has amendments need to get them directly to Rochelle noon Thursday before our work session later this month. So Councilmember Stubble.
Thanks, Mayor. I think I was going to clarify a similar point. So if we're, do we have enough time on the agenda on the 24th? Or do we need a standalone work session? Given the degree of focus and intensity I'm hearing that we'll need to do this correctly.
Great question. I believe right now we just have one presentation scheduled for that. I think Rochelle is pulling it up. We're having a race to see who pulls it up first.
Group scheduling is not ideal, but I think it would
Right.
be helpful to set the
Yeah.
date while folks can hear it tonight, so we're as transparent as possible.
So it seems reasonable that we can include that for a work session. Correct. So that would be, just to make things clear. So our work session would be March 24th. So that means noon, Thursday, the 19th. Okay, so with that, can we call for the question for moving to table and starting with you, Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
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 And that passes. Okay, the next part, we're gonna jump ahead to item K. Approve Ease Liquid Courage LLC DBA Liquid Courage Bar and Grill, 592 Main Street, Suite 1, and adjacent covered patio. Lander, Wyoming application to transfer of ownership of retail liquor license number 2, currently held by Liquid Courage LLC DBA Liquid Courage Bar and Grill, 592 Main Street, Suite 1, and adjacent covered patio, Lander, Wyoming. Could I get a motion in a second, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
So moved by Councilmember Josh Hahn, seconded by Councilmember Cox. Any comments on this or discussion?
I just want to clarify in my mind that all we're doing is just switching the ownership of this license,
That is
staying
correct.
in the same place, except for now it's Ease Liquid Courage, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right,
Yep.
thank you.
Just a side note, if you want to have tacos, this is the best place.
I've heard nothing but
to have
stellar things.
tacos.
Well, all
If
the
you're-
food there, actually, so,
Yeah.
but yeah, tacos are even higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, So call for the question. We'll start with you, Councilmember Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 Okay, that passes. Next up is L, approve Sweetwater Investment Properties LLC DBA Wind River Outdoor Company, 8114 Highway 789, Lander, Wyoming. Application to transfer ownership and location of retail liquor license number 15, currently held by American Pizza Partners LP, DBA Pizza Hut at 670 East Main Street, Lander, Wyoming. Once again, a motion and a second, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Larson, seconded by Councilmember Dan Hahn. So this is changing ownership and location. Any other question, discussion?
Mayor, I do, if I may. Thank you. This would be, so for Counselor Phillips or Clerk Fontaine, this would be approving tonight means tomorrow Pizza Hut does not have a liquor license, correct? You're nodding. Have we heard from them? Are they still planning, they're suspending operations as of tomorrow then? Are they applying for a different type of liquor license? What has the communication been?
License, they could potentially come in and apply for a restaurant license that would meet the criteria of what they currently do. But we have not heard that they intend to do that. And you're correct. We would notify everybody tomorrow that the council approved the transfer, the liquor license. We have to let the state know, and then they send us the actual license. We can't generate those or Photoshop them or make them up or anything like that. So once that happens, we'll notify Pizza Hut that their license is no longer valid and Wind River Outdoors that they're good to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying. Any other questions? Okay, Councilmember Larson, call for the question.
Yes.
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 Great, and that passes. So, okay, now we'll go back up to 11A. Approve first reading of ordinance 2026-1, fixing and determining the mill levy necessary to be levied to raise sufficient money by general tax to meet the current expenses of the city of Lander for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2026. Again, standard, we do this every year. A motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Councilmember Cox with a second by Councilmember Cassidy. I suspect there's not discussion. Do call for the question, Councilmember Hahn.
Yes.
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 Great, that passes. Next up is item B, approve resolution 1381, a resolution of the governing body of the city of Lander to place the question of the 3/4% sales and use tax for economic development on the 2026 primary election ballot to exclusively support ground ambulance, commercial air service, and public ground transportation. And a motion and a second for this one, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Larson, seconded by Councilmember Cox. So this was the presentation that Mick Pryor provided a little bit ago. It's really our choice. Do we want to put this on the ballot for the public to vote on? Any discussion on this? Councilmember Danhon.
Yes. On this resolution, 1381, if they put it, my question is, if they put it on the primary ballot and it passes the primary ballot, that means it's a done deal, right?
That is correct.
It will not go any farther. Well,
It would have to be renewed every 4 years.
what's that?
It would have to be renewed every 4 years.
Yeah,
It's not permanent.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, one of my problems is that only half the people vote in the primary, and independents and libertarians can't even vote. So,
Yeah, they can.
can they?
Yes, they often don't have candidates
Okay.
because it's party if they're a party candidates and there's not a candidate, they don't have an option there. But anything that is countywide, they absolutely can vote on.
So-
Yes.
All right. So my next question is if this passes and this goes through, who's going to manage the money and distribute the money to the three entities? Has that been discussed?
Great question, and the committee is well aware that there's a time-sensitive issue for the resolution, and they also know that the memorandum of agreement among the entities needs to be fleshed out and specified with that being determined well before the primary ballot goes out.
Isn't that, isn't that information that an elected official going to vote on something? Shouldn't they know all these things before they vote on it? I would think that I should have all the information to at least know what's going on before I vote.
Yeah, they had presented a draft of the memorandum of agreement and noting that in the conversations, there were questions from different municipalities. And while they wish they could address all of them concurrently, there is not available time for them to do that. And again, the resolution, there is a hard deadline for that to be able to, it has to be voted on by all the municipalities by the end of the month. So that was their first push, knowing that the memorandum of agreement is right up behind it as the second priority, and that there are questions in terms of
Okay.
the specific funding flow of how the dollars work.
I only have
Yeah.
one other comment, and I believe that Mick agreed with that. My question is, we as elected officials are expected to make decisions without seeing any financial statements, concerning proposed taxes. And people trust what we do up here. And I think that I think sometimes and in this case, I do believe that we're, at least I'm guessing at what's going to happen. And I don't have the correct information because this is a pretty big deal. I mean, this is a lot of money, and it does a lot of different things, but I think to be expected to vote on this, and with people trusting in me with with virtually not having enough information. I don't like that. I really don't. So that's my last comment.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. Yep.
Mayor.
Yep.
Yeah, what's the percentage of distribution per person that's wanting
Yeah.
to? Because it seems like it's all gonna be one lump sum and then somebody's gonna be there to say, well, you need this amount, we're gonna give you this and.
There were specific percentages of that allocation in the proposed memorandum of agreement for that. So I know even though we typically don't do this, it seems like Mr. Pryor, it'd be helpful if you came forward. And I think for all of us there, I can't remember which meeting date you were at, but there was a lot of information you presented at that time that would be helpful to refresh our memory in terms of some of the questions that are being raised here tonight.
Certainly, Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity. With respect to the last question, within that memorandum of agreement, it was 55% going to ambulance service. I believe it was about 30% going to 30 or 34% going the direction of commercial air service. And then the remaining balance of about 15 or 20% going to public ground transportation.
So I got 54% to the ambulance, 31% to the air, WRTA to the 15%.
That sounds right. Correct.
Okay, so did we ever get a breakdown on the ambulance, like bills and claims? See what they're billing, see what they're receiving?
So yes and no. I mean, like as presented last month, we can project it, but unfortunately, Priority Ambulance is under no obligation to provide that information. And so we can project it, and we have some fairly, ultimately our assessments from State Department of Health, as well as our own projections from the last time we had data, which was 2015. We estimate the cost to operate an ambulance is somewhere between $3.4 and $3.8 million in its current configuration. Now, here's the problem, is I would argue that our current configuration is too light relative to the needs of our county. So we are operating 6 ambulances across the county, 2 in Lander, 3 in Riverton, and then 1 in DuBois. And then one of those, each in Lander and Riverton, is only a part-time ambulance. And by that, I mean, it's not a 24-hour ambulance. So we're trying right now what we are doing, and it's we're a little bit outside the mandate of the committee from FCAG, but we've started to develop that business plan to give you all an idea of what those costs would be. Based on projections of collections and everything else, we anticipate the cost, what would be collected based on best data is about 2.2 million. Now, obviously that only takes into account what is remitted for, private pay, insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, and tribal health. The trick here is that does not include inter-hospital transfers outside of the county, which we don't have a lot of good data for because we don't, you're asking a different question related, because right now most of that goes out via air ambulance. What I can tell you is it should hopefully lower that cost for the patient, but with respect to what revenue that would generate for the ambulance, I don't know. But there are a couple of other components here that we're still trying to put together. The county has maintained an ambulance system, but I would tell you it is maintained. It has not been adding or replacing components in a timely manner. So there is likely a period of time wherein the service would still be run by Priority, but most of those funds in the early part of this, the life of this tax would be actually to replace ambulances and to add additional equipment to make sure that we are up to a standard of care. Beyond that, what I will tell you is this committee is working towards remitting or returning the ambulance system back to a municipal system. So it is public employees who are held to account with a fully auditable set of books. But unfortunately, I can't show that to you at the moment because I don't have it. I wish I did. What I'm asking for is the horse right now. I can't tell you what kind of carriage is behind it or cart until I get a little bit further in the weeds. And the hard part here is I also need to get every council and the commission on board as well. And so you're asking me to hit a moving target 10, a year in the future with an unknown amount of need. So I will do my best, and what I will make a commitment to this council and to every council and commission that I sit in front of, as long as I am part of this process, I will do my best to ensure that everything that is legally able to be disclosed publicly will be disclosed publicly. Obviously, HIPAA stuff, I can't do that, and I don't think you're asking for that. But
No, sir.
every piece of financial data that I can deliver to you, I will. But you are taking a leap of faith with respect to this. But what I would also tell you is, in your deliberation, all I am asking for is for the opportunity to take this to the voters. This is not necessarily an endorsement of this council of this plan. You're giving me an opportunity, and my group an opportunity to draft a plan over the next several months to allow the voters to consider all of that information. You are absolutely correct. You are making a decision on half information at best. But over time, my hope is that the ultimate arbiters of this, the public, will be given enough information to make an adequate decision at the primary time. I wish I could give you a promise of like, this is what it is, but I can't. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate you speaking frankly for that. So, while we have you here, don't go yet.
Yeah,
Just that
yeah.
there's other lights on.
Oh,
Councilmember
okay. Oh,
Castro.
sorry.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for returning. I think I started my last comments with ambulance services not in question, and I still feel that way. I've gotten a lot of intense feedback on this, and a lot of really fruitful discussions with folks. And they tend to circle around the same general comments and observations of, we want a particular outcome, we don't want it in this way. The wrapping in which it's wrapped is not accurate. It's not, it isn't economic development. One of the comments in a conversation came up is, if we were to raise, I think it was 6 million, I might be off on that number. If we were to raise $6 million and we roll the clock 4 years ahead, how much of that $6 million has been spent on pure, true economic development that we can tangibly calculate as data and understand? And that's going to be probably zero. Is there some far down the road economic development benefit to having essential services of a civilized nation? Yes, there are. Is that something that we use these procedures to pursue? I don't think so. If we were to do that, then the ambulance would be an economic development activity. The police department, clean water and sewage would be economic development, and everything else we do as a civilized society would also be economic development. And I don't think that's right. That's not true, and that's not going to build high trust, I think, in the community. There's cynicism around this that we need to be sensitive to. There's perhaps a low trust perception that we need to be sensitive to. And that, to me, runs in conflict with what everybody agrees, which is that we need ultimately for this to win, but not in this manner, not in this way, characterized as economic development. And that puts us in a really hard spot because of what you said when you were here, I think 2 weeks ago, which was the state legislature, and I can be wrong on this, the state legislature have given us very limited maneuver space in which to solve this problem. And it's hung under that because there's no other options. If that's the case, then perhaps no other municipality or county would have these essential services either without doing it through economic development. So I don't know how they're solving for X, but I don't think this is the right way. We're going to burn capital in a way that we probably don't want to do. And the last thing I would say is that I understand your comment and your point of view of this. We're not, we're opening the door to allow you to refine your procedures and your documents, and then to allow the final arbitration to be done at the ballot box. And I think I agree with you to a certain degree on that. But we also will serve to advocate for a particular outcome. And if we were to approve this currently, we would advocate for, in the future, um, trying to create certain outcomes that are mislabeled and are incorrect. And that's not something that I think is wise for us to do. I want to see this solved, but not in this way. So those are kind of my observations from discussions. And every place I was wrong, cut it down, please.
No worries.
help me out.
So here's what I would tell you. The best way to solve this would actually be I have a hospital district. Fremont County has not had a hospital district since the early 1980s, and that was a mistake that our county commissioners made 40 plus years ago. Generally speaking, if you look around the state of Wyoming, every county has a public hospital. A memorial hospital is what it's called in state statute. Those memorial hospitals are generally where ambulance districts emanate from. It is a tax base of property tax, and it's done that way. For whatever dumb reason, 40 plus years ago, we found ourselves, deciding that we didn't need to do that. And we have been paying for that sin for 4 decades. And I wish I could tell you, yeah, let's just do a hospital district and call it a day. I will tell you, I'm actively involved in the nonprofit hospital over in Riverton that will hopefully open its doors in late this fall. But unfortunately, we've been, I wouldn't call it dealt. We created a situation for ourselves, not this body, not this current configuration, but we are paying for the sins of poor decisions on elected officials of the past. And I wish there was some way to go back in time and shake those guys awake. But unfortunately, I have to deal with the card. We all have to deal with the cards that we have been dealt. And unfortunately, we have to solve these things in more creative manners than our peers across the state. And, unfortunately. So that's kind of not to, I'm not trying to make up excuses or anything like that. But, after you brought that up, I'm just like, did I miss something? And it's like, and I just had to kind of continue to go back to and that is ultimately the root of the problem.
Is that a feasible solution?
You tell me. With respect to a property tax, it would go through the same period of time, but ultimately, I would tell you that the public is probably less apt to do something like that with an active hospital system already in place, albeit a privately held one with, some questionable outcomes here and there. I would tell you practically, or rather possibility-wise, it is possible. But pragmatically, I don't think it is the path of least resistance.
Yeah, so if that's an identified error in the past, right, we need to correct the error and do it in the right way, right? And somebody please help me with this because I do not know the answers. If this is to be passed at the ballot box, right, and you had an economic development, 3/4 of a cent, and you're not generating any revenue in order to do economic development, and you still have a gap in the community, you still have a need and perhaps a public demand for economic development, then what do we do? How do we have a second economic development tax of another certain amount of money in order to actually do what we have been trying to do? Or would the fact that we already have one deny us the ability to do that? Because if we do this and we do it through 2030, we're effectively tying our hands on any economic development public effort. Is that true?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So through 2030, absolutely. However, state statute allows for all the way up to a full penny related to economic development. Within statute, you can ask for an increase in the next ballot question of that 1/2 cent or 3/4 cent, pardon me. So there are remedies and opportunities to fill that need should it come to pass.
Great. So my point is we're going to consume that opportunity. Is it clear? We're going to consume that opportunity with this.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. And I would really encourage you to take advantage of meeting with the Wyoming Business Council representative, because in some of their iterations, and this has been quite some time, so this is not a new in response to this conundrum, explaining that of the building blocks of economic development, they can make a very strong argument for these services being part of economic development. So, and that might be part of our responsibility to learn more from Mr. Edwards about how do we articulate why these constitute economic development and are appropriate, using the economic development sales tax as an appropriate way to do that, so that we can better articulate that to our constituents. Because
Yep.
I think one of the things I saw through the half-cent optional tax for economic development was it was really hard for the broad public to understand what definitions economic development was. And so we had folks saying, don't support private businesses, that's not economic development, and not fair. Don't support nonprofits because they don't generate those things, even though they provide needed services to our constituents. It shouldn't go to, government because that's expanding our footprint and that's not the intended use of it. And often, at least in my conversations with folks, they didn't like one of those, but they wanted to go to one of the other ones. It's like, but, it's hard to do. So,
Yeah.
I think, I love the idea of trying to solve the right problem the right way. I think realistically, I mean, when your group looked at what an ambulance district would cost or bring in terms of property tax, it was nowhere near the needed amount. So I can't imagine what would be needed if we had a hospital district and the impact on property tax. And I'm not expecting you to have an answer for that, Mr. Pryor, but I think it would be a staggeringly huge impact to property tax owners if we went
would
that way.
likely also have to run some level of a municipal bond in order to build a facility. It would be probably, so the property tax goes into a component of operation, but ultimately that assumes that you have a facility to operate out of, which currently we do not.
Yeah.
And I'm familiar with the
Yeah.
debate points that you talked about,
Yeah.
Dave. I've sat in here in the discussions and in the briefs about, infrastructure and its contribution to economic activity, for sure. But there's a significant amount of pushback. And, if people have in the past created other mechanisms through which to fund essential services for the public, then there is a way, there is a solution. There has been a solution in the past, and it hasn't been identified as economic development. And I think that if you broaden very, very wide that definition, it captures everything. It could be water and sewer. It could be fire department. It could be law enforcement, because all of those things do result in peace and stability that can allow economic activity to flow. There's probably very purpose-built mechanisms through which you can fund all of those activities, and then also fund very bespoke, specialized economic development, right? And what we're doing was we're blowing that definition as wide as we can to capture these three things and these things exclusively and nothing else. And we're leaving ourselves 25% of a penny of flexibility to do anything else, right? And that, I think, is a risk. And it's a risk that we are going to walk right into in an environment, an operational environment in which there's low trust and there's cynicism. So I think that it's very, very, it's a high risk proposition.
Yeah. Thank you. You articulated that well. Thank you. Yeah. So, other questions for Mick? Councilmember Stubble.
Well, perhaps not questions, but thank you for being here. And maybe one will come up, but comments and reactions, I think, to the debate points we've had. Trying to see if I can do this more of an organized way. I think that there was a point of clarity I want to offer to the conversation there, Councilman Cassidy, you brought up about if this were to occupy the space as an economic development tax, that ties our hands till 2030. It does not for all publicly funded economic development activities, though it does for assessing another sales tax, or perhaps, as you said, there would still be a 0.25 available to us. But there are other publicly funded opportunities for us for economic development. Now, we are not rolling in a lot of cash here, but let me just name a few. We can determine if there's a portion of our general fund we want to put forward to developing an economic development plan and strategy for City of Lander, identify gaps, identify opportunities, decide what role the city could do better at, right? We could fund a position. I don't, want to bring these forward for debate tonight. We could fund LIDA if we had an EDO that came to us with a precise funding proposal and a need and a vision that we felt confident in. So there are publicly funded economic development activities for the next 4 years if this were to take up 0.75% of the sales tax that we could levy, that the public could decide to levy. But I heard it being a bit more broad, I think. I was a little worried to hear it feel like, well, then we can't have any more publicly funded economic development. And I take a little, I have a little disagreement with that, I think, if I didn't mishear you.
Can I refine that a little bit?
please.
It's not only can we, but would we, or will we, or is there
Exactly.
the appetite to do so? Because
that's-
if you
yeah.
consume 3/4 of that 1 penny
Mhm.
and you make the argument and you justify it as economic development and it's contentious and it passes and there's very little tangible economic development and you go back and you say, we want to do another 25%. The people who experience the 3/4 are still there voting, right? And that's problematic. So is there going to be an appetite to do so, right?
And I think that's, sorry, Mayor. Councilman Cassidy, I think that's such an excellent question. Both are, the points I put out of what we could publicly fund, our appetite for that, very valid, for us to consider and debate with all the needs we have to weigh for our constituents. And then the public trust issue, which I think you speak of so eloquently as well. And I take deeply seriously and want to make sure that if this goes forward tonight, we do this in a way that does build trust and addresses the really valid debate points about are these economic development under this umbrella? I think there's very good reasoning for it, and it's reasoning I feel compelled by with my understanding of economic development building blocks and this tax, but I understand and have heard, very good arguments against that as well. And so ways we can build trust if this were to go forward. I mean, Councilman Hahn, comes back to the concerns I heard from you that I agree with, that let's have the MOA absolutely negotiated and baked by the time the voters make their decision. And that's intent, right? In the MOA, it says this would be effective the day after, right, the primary election, if it were to pass. And so that's not a hope, that's in there, that we're not going to go to the ballot in August, we're not going, but the ballot won't have this question in August with we're not sure exactly the percentage. It would be in the MOA negotiated by the municipalities in the county very clearly for the voters to have that information. And let's do that then well in advance of that voting date too. So in terms of building trust, that transparency of saying, here's how this could be divided. Here's more of the details of the agreements between us. Hopefully including quite a bit more oversight, information, and transparency about emergency medical services from the county would be my a preference I would have. So the MOA, I think, gives us that debate that we would proceed with, gives us that degree of transparency well in advance of voters making their choices. And
we would vote on the MOA.
And we would vote on the MOA, exactly. And have a very strong negotiating point in it, of course, too. Having the voters answer this question for me is one that is the conviction behind my yes vote tonight, honestly. And I sit with this thinking that we're opening a door, we're hiring the horse before we build a carriage, however, whatever metaphor we want to use. But there's so rarely for us as representatives of a voting public, such a quantifiable way to see what people want, right? We talk in the grocery stores, we get emails, we get awesome public comment, we go out and have conversations. I won't list them all, but we get feedback to inform our votes for us to feel confident we're voting in accordance with our wards and our voters. And there's always a degree of imperfection and imprecision to that. And having voters vote on a ballot gives me data. And I don't want to stand in the way of voters making this choice. I want us then to go forward and that they make that choice with full information in terms of doing that. So I am a yes vote in terms of this isn't opening the door. It's not a yes vote on saying we're levying a tax. It's saying voters, what do you think? The last thing I'll add to that, Mayor, is that for Ward 2 voters, there is an appetite and a positivity for economic development sales tax. In Ward 2, in the last election, my voters, Ward 2 voters, would have passed the half-cent economic development tax, which funded a portion of what we're putting forward in this, which funded air service, which funded WRTA, and then had the grants to private business component to it too. So this is different in kind, but not wholesale difference. So I think that's a data point that I take to heart as well, that Ward 2 voters have an appetite for saying sales tax for economic development is something that they've said yes to in the past. The majority of the county didn't, but the folks I'm accountable to did. So in summary, Mayor, I'm a yes vote on opening this door up for voters to decide. And I want us to be incredibly active, transparent, and building trust in how we talk about it and how we settle the details in the MOA before the ballot goes to the, well, to the absentee voters first, but
Yeah.
goes out.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. Other comments? Councilmember Cassidy? Oh, no, okay. Councilmember Hahn?
Just like the half-cent tax, I believed in that on the economic development side. I mean, a lot of things that happened, I think ruined people, but this tax right here, I know there's a lot of people, and I said this before, that they're wrapping everything up into one, and most people, they do not like the public transportation. You know, I don't know if that's going to be enough to take this thing down or not, but the reason why I like this vote or this resolution is because it's a shared tax. A lot of people, you know, that don't know that, there's going to be a lot of people putting into this 3/4 cent if it passes. And even though I'm not 100% on everything, on where the money's going, this tax right here is going to be shared by a lot of people. And that's a great tax because it takes a lot of burden off the people in town. I think one of the problems that I have, and just like I stated, I hate making decisions, and it seems to be like a normal now. Making a decision with not enough information. And I hope that we can get things turned around because it's not fun. And I think it's kind of disrespectful for the people that have to vote on things with not all the information we have. But this vote, I believe in this 3/4 cent because it's gonna take the pressure off I think it'll take the pressure off the people. And if this fails, I also know that it's going to come back to all the municipalities and it's going to be on our lap.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
thank you. You bring up a good point that being a sales tax and with Fremont County having a strong tourism economy, there will be non-residents who contribute to this and not solely on residents. And that's one of the things your committee looked at is property taxes exclusively Fremont County landowners. And we're missing the opportunity to have shared usage of these, or shared financing for shared services. So. Agreed. And I echo that it would be phenomenal if we had the perfectly crafted MOA at the same time. Unfortunately, we don't live in that perfect world. And I do, though, have confidence that the committee will work with the municipalities so that well in advance of, I believe it's July 1 when absentee ballots go out, that we'll have a well-crafted MOA for our constituents to make their informed decision.
I will make one more comment. We have a huge broad stroke on economic development anymore.
Yep.
And it's not for a lot of us that are older, the economic development the things that people call economic development now, for a lot of us, it's not what we call economic development. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Larson.
Yes, all we're trying to do here tonight is say that we support putting this on the ballot. We're not saying we're
Correct.
for it. We're not saying we're against it. We're just saying, you know, we want to see it get put to the ballot. And I would call a question from here. Thank you.
Okay. Having had call to the question, I think we start on this end with you, Councilmember Hahn.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
And that motion passes. Thank you all for robust discussion on that. I know we'll have continued. Thank you, Mr. Pryor, for coming. great points were raised, and we will continue moving forward on that with more robust discussions. All right, next up, approve resolution 1382, approving industry representative support for the WYO Climbers Spring Fling fundraiser on March 21st, 2026, pursuant to Wyoming Statute 12-5-402, and exempting the parking lot at Wild Iris Mountain Sports located at 166 Main Street, Lander, Wyoming, from the open container provisions of City Ordinance 2-2-12. Could I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cox with a second by Councilmember Josh Hahn. Rochelle, any additional information to share with us?
Just Wild Climbers asked for this. The beer is being donated by Lander Brew Company, who's a microbrewery, so they qualify as an industry representative. A retail license can donate, but not industry representatives without your approval.
Any questions? Okay, Councilmember Larson, call for the question.
Yes.
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 Okay, that passes. Next up, item D, approve extension of the Lotra lease and license until December 31, 2026, and setting the lease amount at $1,350. Can I get a motion in a second?
Mayor, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Stubble with a second by Councilmember Cox. Regine, want to fill us in on the meeting? I can chime in, but
I think the important point is that the LOTRA board suggested this to us, and what they would like to do is extend everything through the end of the year so that in the fall, they can talk about a memorandum of understanding in addition to the license or in replacement of the license and the lease.
yeah, nice meeting with them. I appreciate the chance to share information with them and hear their concerns. And one of their big concerns was, as they are starting to make plans and other agenda items, were approving folks to help with the 4th of July, 3rd and 4th of July rodeo, that's where they needed to focus their time and effort. So totally willing to, this was, as Regine said, their suggestion, and totally willing to work with that. So. Any other questions or discussion?
Mayor, I'll make a comment here. I do want to note, of course, too, that this does represent an increase from what they have been paying. They've been paying $1,000 for a year lease, and that was up from $100 a couple of years before that. So I think 3 years before that, if I'm not totally imprecise. So I appreciate the good faith effort from them here in accepting an increase of $350 that there is, it's the cost of the city, that we need to do what we can to recoup some degree of a greater lease agreement, I think, given the services that we do exchange. And I'm really pleased to hear that we'll be negotiating a memorandum of understanding with them, because I think that is a better catch-all vehicle for us in terms of understanding, comprehensively assessing, and then acknowledging, particularly, the variety of exchange of services and work that happens between city staff, financial on our part, financial on their part, volunteer on their part. So it's been a somewhat messy discussion in the past because of, not messy in a negative way, but just, we talk about a lease here for this private arena, for the private land, their private building, our city land. But there is a larger discussion about LOTRA, the 4th of July rodeo, the rodeo grounds, that often gets brought in. So I think having an agreement between us that brings all that together instead of taking kind of bites here and there makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you to them for
I think so.
the negotiations here and for acknowledging a small increase here in the lease amount as well.
Any other comments? Okay. Good. We call for the question. Councilmember Josh Hahn, please.
Yes.
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 Great. Motion passes. Next up, authorize the mayor to sign the 2026-27 renewal lease for the Lander Senior Center. Can I get a motion in a second,
Move to
please?
approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Larson and seconded by Councilmember Cassidy. Regine, anything to add on this?
No, but I'm happy to answer questions. The main thing about this new lease is, since they now have a senior recreational district, it takes some of those charges that would traditionally be taken from our senior endowment funds, which is less than $250,000 now, and puts it onto their recreation district. So, and they've agreed to that.
Great. Any questions? Okay, we'll call for the question. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Next up, item F, award bid alternative A for the Buena Vista Water and Roadway Surface Improvement Project to Wilson Brothers Construction, Inc., as recommended by HDR Engineering in the amount of $267,780.00. Motion in a second, please.
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Councilmember Cassidy. Lance, anything you want to add in on this other than what's in our packet?
I was just going to talk about the next four items. So we have to award the alternative, which is push route. That's the first item. It gives us our overall contract amount. The notice of award lets Wilson Brothers know they won. That's item G. H is the agreement. So once we tell them that they've been awarded, they get to get their bonds, get everything together, their insurance, complete the agreement that's in your packet. Once we have everything, it's reviewed by the attorney, the engineer, and myself. If that's good, we're saying you guys can authorize us to sign the agreement. The last is we give them the notice to proceed, which is everything's good on the contract. We set the date, then they can move forward. So these are all contractual items. Two of them happen now, two of them happen in the future.
Yeah, thanks for putting that sequence together for us. That's really helpful and sets us up well to click right through those. Any questions for Lance about this? Okay, so let's call for the question. Starting with you, Councilmember Hahn.
Yes.
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 Okay, F passes. G, as Lance noted, authorize the mayor to sign the notice of award to Wilson Brother Construction, Inc. for Buena Vista Water and Roadway Surface Improvement Projects, inclusive of bid alternate A in the amount of $267,780.00 as recommended by HDR Engineering for a total award of $6,898,695. So motion in a second for item G.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Larson and seconded by Councilmember Josh Hahn. I don't think there's any questions. See none. Councilmember Josh Hahn?
Yes.
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 Okay, G passes. H, authorize the mayor to sign the agreement between owner and contractor for construction contract. We don't have the stipulated price, or are we referencing the 6 million, et cetera? Okay. So at $6,898,695 between the city of Lander and Wilson Brothers Construction, Inc. for Buena Vista Water and Roadway Surface Improvements Project, inclusive of bid alternate A, when all contractual items are received from Wilson Brothers Construction, Inc. So motion and a second for H, please.
So moved.
Sorry. Moved by Councilmember Stubble with a second by Councilmember Cox. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 Great. H passes. Last of this bundle, item I, authorize the mayor to sign the notice to proceed for the Buena Vista Water and Roadway Service Improvement Project, inclusive of bid alternate A, after the agreement between owner and contractor for construction contract stipulated price is signed by all parties. Motion and second for this one, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Hahn with a second by Councilmember Cassidy.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I just wanted to note, bundling them like this, Lance, feels like new to me for the last, I don't really believe I've seen this before exactly. And it feels really efficient that we don't have to wait for future meetings for us to say, oh, we did notice of it award. In 2 more weeks, we'll have a meeting, we'll do this piece. So thank you, I think.
Yeah.
It feels more helpful for everybody involved.
I think it'll line out the contracts better if we do it this way moving forward. And then you're not seeing it. And also we have to wait for the next meeting to get it in. So it throws off timing to sign the agreement and issue the notice to proceed, where we want to get these contractors moving. So
It seems like a nice
appreciate that.
improvement. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, agreed.
I just wanted to say that in there somewhere.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks. Good thing to know. Sorry, I can't remember which side we start on for this one. Like, Councilmember Hahn.
Yes.
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 Great, that passes. Item J, authorize the mayor to sign the notice to proceed for the Jefferson Street Extension Project contingent on receiving all the CDBG contractor required documents. Okay, motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Councilmember Cassidy. Regine, this is you, and I understand we need to amend the title of this to be spot on.
Yes, please. This is what happens when you have the B team put in an agenda item. So I referred to this as the Jefferson Street Extension, and I would like you to make an amendment to replace the words Jefferson Street Extension with the proper grant title, which is the Poposia River Park Entrance Development.
Who's River Park?
Yep. Authorize the mayor to sign the notice to proceed for the Poposia River Park Entrance Development Project contingent on receiving all the CDBG contractor required documents.
Mayor, I move that we amend this authorization to grant it for notice to proceed for the for the Poposia River Park entrance development project.
Great. We have an amendment proposed by Councilmember Stubble. Can we get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, and a second by Councilmember Larson. Can we vote on the amendment, please? Starting Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 Great. And now can we vote on the item as a whole, starting with you, Councilmember Han?
Yes.
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 Great, that passes. And K and L have already been addressed, as has 12. So
I just have a question. I'm sorry. I should have asked it earlier. And it's just by way of maybe an annoyance with me or a template, but the documents for Buena Vista project with HDR in their title of the PDF, so if you see here, it says 2013. And so if you look at the title of do you see that? 2013. I don't know.
So
Go
what
ahead.
happens is that there's these engineered documents out there that everybody uses for their contracts and they're EJCDC.
Okay.
And so that is the version that they purchased is the 2013 version. There's a 2018
Gotcha.
that's out as well. But if they didn't remove those templates on the documents, it's just referencing what
Okay.
year, what version you're seeing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
clarification. With that, we get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Dan Hahn and a tie for second with Councilmember Cassidy and Josh Hahn. Councilman Hahn, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 Great.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you all. Great discussion.